The low for me was the main event. If we're going to talk about a match that felt like the main event, let's compare it to the actual main event of SummerSlam, and that's the low for me.
See, I staunchly would disagree with you on that one.
And, well, let's talk about it, all right? I understand what they want to do here. I understand that Brock Lesnar is the draw, and it gets to be the main event. I get it. But I'm starting to firmly be in the camp of that I'm just tired of him. And there's a lot of people out there that's going to say that, don't hate. He's the draw. He's the money. He's Brock Lesnar, can do what he wants. That's fine. I can get that. But I'm just tired of the guys who are there every week, busting their ass, trying to be the top guy, Seth Rollins, people like that. And Brock Lesnar gets to come in, have a shorter, boring, predictable bullshit match, and then the way that they end it, to me, it's wrong. And I don't know what you think of it. I'll tell you why I think it's wrong, but what do you think of it?
I thought it was great. The match was pretty entertaining. If we're going match for match in the SummerSlam card, it was not the most disappointing match on the card by far.
I'm not saying it's the most disappointing match or the worst match. It's just the low point.
Unfortunately, we've been down this road so many times at this point that it's become cliche to get down on WWE about having these guys that are quote-unquote attractions or part-timers walking in and being in the main event. They've been doing this for quite some time now. This is nothing new. And to just keep sounding the horn that we're sick of it, if we're really sick of it, we wouldn't pay money to go to these shows. And this is the same thing that we heard about, The Rock when he came back a few years ago and he was in the main event. He was involved in the main event multiple times and blah, blah, blah. Undertaker has gotten flack. He only works once a year and he's always in one of the highest profile matches. Well, it's a business and they're going to put things that are drawing money to the product at a different place in the card than just somewhere in the middle like that.
All right, fine. No, I get it. But if you're going to waltz in and be in the main event, then deliver.
And you know what? I don't see how this match failed to deliver. I just don't. The match was entertaining, and we got
I wasn't entertained. That's the difference.
Yeah, but you didn't want.
wasn't entertained.
You wanted to be. You rejected this. You and Sean both rejected this match weeks before it happened. You went into it with the mentality of I need to hate this match,
and I do.
And that's the wrong mindset to have. Because then you either have to go back on your word and be like, I take it back, the match was great, or the match was okay, or the match was acceptable, or you have to be disappointed, which is what you wanted to be in the first place.
Look, I said Brock Lesnar is going to do the same bullshit, and then if Brock Lesnar went in there and him and Randy Orton did something entertaining for me or exciting for me, then I would have been, wow, I thought this was going to be bullshit, and they surprised me, and it would have been fine. But that didn't happen.
So here's the thing: they didn't do the same bullshit they normally do. They whipped out something completely different, completely out of left field, shocked everybody. Crowd was caught in a dead silent spell because of what happened, and they effectively added another dimension to the Brock Lesnar character at this point.
All right. So here's where I look at that completely different than you.
Okay.
And that's fine. There's no right or wrong to this. This is just how I saw it and my first reaction to it, and I'm going to stick with this. Would you say that anything before the ending, was anything too special or different? Because it seems like you're relying on the finish is what they did that's so different and exciting. Because everything before that was pretty boring, and people were chanting boring. You pointed it out.
Yes, no, people were kind of over the soup. But you know what? He didn't do
the German suplex.
He didn't do 12 or 16 suplexes. He got to about 8, and that stopped.
Still 8.
It's still 8. But there is an expectation that he does that. Like that's part of the that's part of the getting your shit in, quote unquote.
Look, I'm in the camp that was 2 years ago. It was shocking. It was brutal. It blew everybody's minds that could even happen. And the fact that that's just his MO now for matches. It takes away from that.
But yes, if you're asking me, okay, so you're asking me.
I'd rather let that be special.
Now, are you asking me up to the finish? Did we see anything particularly different than we normally see?
Yes.
So up to the finish, not particularly.
All right.
Now you can apply that logic to just about any other match on the card.
You can.
So it's not fair to single this match out for that. But
all right,
I mean, if there's
John
one,
Cena
if there is one thing I will tell you, I mean, just little things that are sprinkled in the match that I noticed. Like, for example, Randy Orton didn't showboat when he did the second rope DDT. He like went at it quickly, like, this is Brock Lesnar. I need to do this right now. And there was some ring psychology in there that I thought was done really well.
Or were they rushing because they had to squeeze in fucking?
They weren't. They weren't rushing.
And anyway, it was just so the finish is RKO kick out, F5 kick out, like just boom boom kick out of the finishers, which seemed like pretty quickly in the match. I don't know, what did it last, like 15 minutes? And here's why I don't like the finish. So he elbows Randy Orton legitimately in the head to bust him open, and we all everywhere are saying that was the actual plan. I never thought for a second that it was an accidental hard way. Like it seemed planned, like that was the idea from the get. Here's what I don't like about this. To me, this destroys kayfabe completely. Because to me, it looks like...
I disagree, homeboy.
Oh, you can disagree, that's fine, and we'll talk about it. But it's like, so our cute little fancy fake wrestling moves didn't work, so now I'm just going to get mad, and I'm going to hit him for real and injure him and bust him open, and they're just going to call the match. That's what it looked like to me. It just like, why wouldn't anybody just do that? It seemed they should. I'd rather him just use work punches and then the ref calls it off. There's no need for him to legitimately elbow him in the head and bust him open because think about it, Matt. Every match we see, they're punching each other with working punches with closed fists. We don't see any blood. We don't see any bruises. We don't see any marks on anyone's face. Remember back in the day where weren't supposed to use a closed fist?
Yeah.
And you'd get warnings? Yeah, because if you use everyone's fake using closed fists, you'd be like, okay, well, I know that if I get into a fist fight, we throw a couple fists, there's marks on our faces, and there's no marks on our faces. So now he hits him for real, and he busts him wide open, and now the match is over.
Well, he certainly left a mark on his face. but
that's what I'm saying. It's just
here's the problem with this, though. Here's the problem with the logic. Like, it made sense in context of what we were seeing. I don't think it's any kind of break of kayfabe. Like, he brutalized him. He hit him with something, busted him wide open, and it just looked like his hit was more brutal than, let's say, someone else. Like, he just was able to hit harder because he's got more strength behind his strikes. But to go and say this destroys kayfabe completely is such a double-edged sword compared to so many things we have seen within the context of what's supposed to be a kayfabe show, from promos to various different fights that have become kind of shooty. And I'm going, like, even CM Punk's pipe bombs and various things that promos that he's cut have been skirting on the edge of, if not completely breaking kayfabe, and he gets a pass because he's CM Punk's and he's beloved. But Brock Lesnar elbows a guy in the head, busts him open. Oh, this destroys kayfabe. This is terrible.
Maybe some of that kayfabe destroying stuff isn't so great.
And part of the problem here is that this is all propagated by Vince McMahon, who many, many years ago made no bones about it, got on TV and said, this isn't, like an actual fight. It's entertainment. And
okay, there's that glaze over it since the Attitude Era that he let everybody know tongue-in-cheekly, and there's going to be winks and nods throughout the show. Sure, the pipe bomb was an isolated thing. It was, that was a special moment. But for me, I'm just saying for me, sure, it might be hypocritical.
And there's plenty of, like, Damian Sandow coming out and saying, like, okay, so me being the genius heel character that was the bad guy, I was actually just told to come out here and act like that. I'm actually a really, really, really great guy, and I love wrestling. I love the fans. It's like, all right, so you just basically exposed the business, like, with promos like that. Like, and if
I don't necessarily appreciate really stuff like that all the time, to be honest with you, all right?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, and like I said, it might be hypocritical because I like some other things, but for me, with the bell to bell, I don't like when things happen that take you out of pro wrestling, bell to bell, in the ring. Because you know what? There could be all the other nonsense and all the other bullshit, and once the bell rings, I can put it out of my mind because I'm trying to watch a good match, right?
Mm-hmm.
As long as there's nothing in that storyline leading up to it that's total, like, nonsense, whatever. But regardless, in the end, I'm getting sucked into a match that these two guys are going at it pro wrestling style, and I'm getting a little, and this is just my personal opinion, I'm getting a little sick of I'm Brock Lesnar, I'm legit, I'm a UFC champion. Well, then go fight for real. You know,
Well, he did.
I don't like the coming in here and the,
Denny,
hit him in the face.
Denny, he can't fight for real right now because he's kind of temporarily suspended for.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't even care about whatever that's about. Whatever the he did. But
look,
don't even
like
care.
this is precedented though. They've done things like this before. I mean, the first one that popped into my head is when Matt Hardy and Edge had a quote unquote stiff match because it transcended the business and was real life. And again, that was another time that they kind of broke kayfabe and exposed the business. And they said, okay, well, on TV, Lita was married to Kane, but in real life, she was with me and she was cheating on me with Edge, and kind of just threw the whole kayfabe story under the bus for the sake of revealing what was going on between them. And if you remember, their match, which I also think was a SummerSlam match, if I'm not mistaken, ended with Matt Hardy being dropped onto the ring post, and the ref just called the match a technical knockout.
But okay, fine. But that's they did wrestling shit, and then Matt Hardy bladed, and they said, "Oh, he can't continue."
All right, but they did wrestling.
But this is literally Brock Lesnar hitting him for real and busting him open. So now it's just like, well, why aren't people getting busted open from punches all the time?
And also, you can't. I mean, how much of this are you blaming on Brock versus the company? Because he didn't just call an audible.
I'm not just blaming it on Brock. I'm blaming it on the idea that Brock is this thing, you know, as this real legit fighting guy. Well, this is not real legit. This is pro wrestling, and I want to see fucking pro wrestling. All right. That's my thing. I'm just tired of I'm legit. I don't give a shit about your kids. I'm gonna kill you and blah blah blah. It's just worn out its welcome for me.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna be pretty happy when he finally loses takes a big L from somebody and puts them over.
I will be. That's gonna be a great day, and that's fine. That's fine. But here's the other thing. The other thing that, speaking of CM Punk, the shit that he always talked about. So now he hits him for real, brutalizes Randy Orton's head. Randy Orton comes out on SmackDown, and obviously he gets thrown into a program with Bray Wyatt. We saw that coming, right? No big deal there. There's nothing really to say about that. It's same old typical Bray Wyatt bullshit anyway. We'll see how that develops, right? But he's like, yep, got this old gash on my head. Anyway, is he out there like pissed off? Does he say, Lesnar, I want your ass? You can't do this to me. I'm Randy Orton. I'm going to get you. None of that. And because you know why? Because Brock Lesnar's not there. Not only is he not there, he's not on that show anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like, if this was Monday Night Raw 97, 98, the very next night, Randy Orton, like Brock Lesnar would be gloating in the ring, and Randy Orton would come out all bandaged up with bald fist and walking down to the ring, no music, and they'd fight.